some swing state polls that show what I think most of us expected, that actually the president of the United States and his performance in the State of the Union address was going to impact Americans and undercut this lie that he somehow was a doddering old man that couldn't complete a sentence. This lie that the Republicans continued to push actually now appears to be backfiring.
Let's briefly check in on that. This is new general election polling showing a neck-and-neck battle for swing states between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. In the latest Bloomberg Morning Consult poll, Trump and President Biden are tied at 45%. In Michigan and Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin, Biden leads by a single point, which is within the margin of error. So an uptick.
Yeah, an uptick. And let's keep those three states up there because there are other swing state polls taken. Biden still, he's down 2 in Nevada, a little bit further behind in other states. Trump is maintaining his lead in the state of Georgia. Gene Robinson, though, as you look at these numbers, these are the 3 states that matter. If Joe Biden wins these 3 states, Donald Trump is that is a so-called blue wall that everyone talked about in 2012 that would never be broken until Donald Trump did it 4 years later. But you look in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, those numbers breaking Biden's way. And I suspect, we've talked about how confident the Biden team has been all along when everybody else has been ready to panic and run for the hills. Right now, at least, this poll suggests that these voters and these polls suggest that maybe they know what they're talking about.
Maybe they do. Maybe the Biden political team actually is pretty good at politics. There must be a giant sigh of relief. Certainly lots of welcoming noises from inside the White House this morning about those polls. As you said, those are states that President Biden has to carry. Polls in Michigan, especially, and in Pennsylvania, had been scary for the White House for a while, but they were quite confident. The political team was quite confident that things would turn around, that Democrats would come home to President Biden as time went on. And so now we're still in March. There's still a long time to go, but with the needle moving in what they would see as the right direction, I think there'll be some smiles about this in the White House, along obviously with deep concern about what's happening in Baltimore. It's a busy news day, as you said.
It is a busy news day. And Willie, it's so interesting when we've talked about this since 2015, that Donald Trump always runs against people who stand there stiff and take it. And when, he's a disruptor on the campaign trail, and when he disrupts, people sit back and say, oh, he shouldn't be mean. The Biden campaign, I saw a couple of days ago when Donald Trump was bragging about another one of his club trophies, where I suppose if you're a member, you have to let Donald Trump win because he wins all of his club championships. And he's bragging it, and, Joe Biden just mockingly goes, nice job, Donald, or something like that. But yesterday, after Donald Trump came out and ranting and raving and claiming that he was Jesus and all this other stuff, as Drudge put it, this is what they said. And I guarantee you, Donald Trump is not used to the incoming that he's facing every day. Quote, Donald Trump is weak and desperate, both as a man and a candidate for president. He spent the weekend golfing, the morning comparing himself to Jesus, and the afternoon lying about having money that he definitely doesn't have. His campaign can't raise money. He is uninterested in campaigning outside his country club. And every time he opens his mouth, he pushes moderate and suburban voters away with his dangerous agenda. America deserves better than a feeble, confused, and tired Donald Trump. And I must say on that last part, there have been people who have been irritated, and count me as one of them, that there are countless stories about Joe Biden after the Hur report being old and feeble and, oh, poor man, he can't remember the things that I can't remember, the things that well, I won't say you're a young man, but the things that a lot of us can't remember in a 5-hour deposition, we have to be asked about it. And yet it's Joe Biden campaigning day by day by day, going to event after event after event. It's Donald Trump who has been holed up in his country club and holed up in other places, only holding one event, and that's an event that he held for a Senate candidate because they don't have the money right now to put on a lot of these events.
Yeah, I mean, the criticism of Joe Biden was that he was the basement candidate. That was from the Trump campaign in 2020. This is the beach club candidate in Donald Trump. He's running a presidential campaign from Mar-a-Lago. He's doing the occasional rally where he flies in for an hour and then flies right back to Mar-a-Lago, ostensibly sometimes for another candidate, but it always becomes about him and his persecution. You weren't exaggerating when you mentioned Jesus. He affirmatively reposted something from one of his supporters yesterday that suggested he, in fact, was a Christ-like figure taking the arrows for the people. But he's walking into a lot of this. We can play tape almost every day, including yesterday, when he was speaking at 40 Wall Street about the decision to have his bond changed. And it truly is objectively incoherent. If you watch the full clips, even if you watch one of his rallies, I'm not sure this is a fight he wants to have, talking about Joe Biden being a doddering old man. And clearly, as you just read in that tweet, the Biden campaign is happy to have this fight too, Jonathan Lemire. So there has been, it appears at least in recent weeks, a shift in posture from the Biden campaign being much more aggressive, especially on this issue of age and mental fitness for the job.
Yeah, and the president himself has gotten far more aggressive in taking it to Trump. His new favorite joke that President Biden has been trotting out at fundraisers and the like is he talks about his efforts to relieve student debt. And he says a man approaches him on the street and says, look, I'm in debt. I need all this money. And Biden says, well, sorry, Donald, I can't help you. So we have seen this, and we have a rapid response team that has grown in the Wilmington campaign headquarters, and they're taking it to Trump every chance they get. And these numbers are what his aides, Biden's aides, thought were coming. The first and foremost mission of the State of the Union address was to reassure nervous Democrats, to show them, look, the president is up for the job. He can deliver a strong performance. Clearly, that happened. A lot of the whispers that Biden even should step aside, that's all vanished. There's much more confidence in the party now that he's up for this fight. And then they thought, well, let's accompany that with a 2-week blitz of campaign travel. And he has been all over, basically to every single swing state, while Donald Trump, to Joe's point, has only held one event, and they had to pull down another, one that was scheduled for Arizona. They had to cancel it because they didn't have the money to pay for it. And that is a real concern for Trump world, is that President Biden and his team have a massive cash advantage, and the president has a major fundraiser.
Jonathan,
yes.
Jonathan, did you just say Donald Trump? You have reporting that Donald Trump had to cancel an event, the only event would have had on his own in a long time. He had to pull it down because they didn't have the money to run the event.
It was an event that was not publicized yet. It had not been officially announced, but they were planning an Arizona event that they had to pull down because they couldn't afford it. They thought they didn't want to use their resources there. So it was not that it had been advertised yet, but still, this was something they wanted to do. And they couldn't. They didn't because they decided to use their resources elsewhere.
Have you ever heard of a political campaign that didn't have the money to run political rallies?
Well, let's recall that there are some in the Trump world that feel like, let's remember, Trump had a cash disadvantage in 2020 as well and had to go dark for a few weeks that fall. They had to pull down advertising. And they think there are some in the Trump world who think that was one of the differences why they lost, is they had to go dark there for a stretch in September, early October, while Biden and his team were advertising nonstop. And that's going to happen again this time around. It's very clear that the Democrats are going to have a major fundraising advantage. In fact, President Biden is appearing in New York City later this week with former presidents Obama and Clinton, and what they hope will be their biggest single fundraiser to date, which will just pad that advantage. And we should know we're seeing some reflection there in the polls. Georgia, Democrats tell me, remains concerned. I think that they feel like Georgia may be out of reach this time around, Joe and Mika, but they feel like other states in play, in particular that blue wall, where they're seeing movement, even in a state, Michigan, where they know they've had trouble because of the Gaza conflict.
Yeah, they're going to have some problems, at least right now in Georgia and in Arizona, two strong Republican-leaning states that went Democratic in 2020. Concerns there. Nevada, of course, I always say when people always predict that Nevada is going to go to Republicans by 2 points in presidential races, I always talk about somehow Democrats, if it's within 2 points, that is I'm giving that to the Democrats because they always seem to pull it out there because of organization. But again, make no mistake, let's put those 3 states up again, Dan. Those 3 states, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. This is the election right here. These are the 3 states that determine who the next president of the United States is going to be. If Joe Biden wins those 3 states, he's the next president.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.